I'm going to take this little thing off. Beloved brothers and sisters of the earth, beloved beings of light, beloved children of God. I am in a state of absolute acknowledgement of the point of time that we have come to, that I acknowledge the gift that is about to be finally seen in our reality. If this is the first time that you have witnessed or tuned into me, I am Geeia Ariati. I've been assigned the label of Oracle for the 144, the bringers of change. I am of sound heart and sound mind, and I am a representative of the law of one. And I am so honored to be here and have walked the path that I've walked to share this information with those that are yet to fully remember what is about to take place. We have come to a point where, as this new moon is here, there is a reclamation of the divine child. Now, this is an essence, consciousness of the holy spark. It's the original expression of the holiness of us before fragmentation. So in our original expression of separation from source, well, we are still source. We are an expression of our unique energy signature of source. And we have come here to be this in this incarnation. And many of us are here to remember our essence. And some of us have given up and left and gone on or moving through a different reincarnation cycle at a higher state of frequency to remember that. But what I have come to know is within the first wave, the second wave, and the third wave of beings, we disconnected from this divine child, this innocence of the light of illumination that we innately are as we came into this reality. And what happens in this experience is that it has been very dense. It's been too hard to stay awake. It's been too hard to remember oneself and to be in the frequency and physical form. And so what happens for the bringers of change is during that early fundamental years of 0 to 7, for most of our generation, there is a disconnection that takes place. And this is a unplugging. So we say that we're plugged into the matrix. Yeah, we are, because we unplugged from ourselves and we plugged into something else. And that's how it works from the light body's representation, is that the light body has these different energy systems. And when we unplug something and we don't plug something else back in, we leave a hole and we allow ourselves to be plugged into things that are not our truths, but we didn't know any other way. We didn't know how to function in this reality. Our parents didn't know that they were bringing a being of light or angelic representation into this reality that needed to be supported in the nurturing of their frequency. We weren't put into mystery schools as highly evolved beings. We weren't understood in our extrasensory abilities. We were actually made to be wronged or weird, or we were disconnected in the different polarization experiences that have taken place. And so what happened was, instead of our parents nurturing our abilities and sending us off to mystery schools to master our kundalini, because we came in at whatever level of evolution you have evolved to at your highest point. You came in with your ascended master. You came in with your all-knowing essence. Now, I know this is hard to make sense of, because you're like, well, how did I forget? I don't remember any of that. Some of you might have glimpses. And for me, I was in my ascended mastery until age 3, and then I completely unplugged myself. Now, many of us do this. Many of us unplug ourselves because it's just not safe, or it hasn't been. And that's what I'm excited for, is that there are children, the innocent ones that are coming in with the high vibration of their angelic essence from different universes, here to bring their frequency, that are not unplugging. They are not unplugging. And we, as the elders, the pillars of light, are here to teach them how to be in matter, to teach them how to be in this reality without unplugging. That is our role. We are the way showers. We are the light workers. And that means that we guide these beautiful children into understanding and understanding themselves. And if you don't know my desired mission, it is to have mystery schools around the world. They're called the School of Magic. Now, the School of Magic is about magic being that of the representation of Isis. So they're the evolved, purified teachings of the temples of Isis. And Isis means magic, or Isis. She corrects me every time. Isis means magic. And this is my mission from the extremes, is to teach people how to be a being, a human being in their light, and to never have to disconnect from who they are, to never have to hide, to never have to cloak themselves, to never wrong themselves for the frequency that they be or how they function in the world. And my deepest desire is to have these foundational schools in every main part of the world with different facilitators. And that is what I'm doing right now. I'm gathering those beings. That is my call. That is what I'm here to do, is I'm bringing in these ascended masters. They are here knowing who you are and assisting that remembrance, to reclaim it, to anchor it, and to start to be your own medicine and share your wisdom as the elder that you are. And a part of that is reclaiming the divine child, the essence of purity, the son or the daughter of Mother, Father, God. Now, this is a frequency. And so what happens is, as many of us have experienced immense amounts of trauma, you might resonate with being called the wounded healer. You might resonate with being the one that has been misunderstood. You might have I can't remember the word. Basically been put on the spectrum, that you have a wrongness in this reality. Maybe you're bipolar, maybe you have autism, maybe you have ADHD. Now, all of these are symptoms to this reality, to explain someone who is of a highly evolved expression in human form, and their brain doesn't know how to function properly in this reality, because this reality is very confusing. Yes, neurodivergent. Thank you. So those beings that are considered to be a little bit different are the beings that I desire to assist to remember. Now, the difference becomes more fragmented, and so the ADHD becomes harder to manage. I am, or have been, I no longer define myself as this, because it's not my truth. I know what I am. I'm a highly evolved being in human form that didn't know how to function in this reality, which gave me ADHD, that gave me bipolar personality, that gave me complex PTSD, that gave me a sense of anxiety and depression, that gave me a a illusion of what I was, to make sense of who I be. And there's nothing wrong with using these labels to make sense of who you are. But when you decide that I am this, and I can't change myself, then you limit yourself to actually understanding what it is and how it actually functions in its truth. Extrasensory. You are someone who receives frequency and information in such a way that is beyond this reality. And your awareness, you are so hyper aware that your brain struggles. Now, why does the brain struggle? The brain struggles because it has been mutated. The original 5D humanoid vessel had a whole brain. The fifth dimensional being in the vessel that was created, the original human race, had a whole brain. There was no corpus callosum. I'm trying to remember if that's correct. You can always correct me if I'm if I'm wrong with my wording. I believe it's the division point between the left and the right hemisphere of the brain. So I'm coming to you from my personality. If I was coming from Ninasag, I'd be able to tell you this, but the division between the left and the right hemispheres of the brain is what created polarity and separation of self. We can be, and this is where the confusion sits, is people say without a left and a right hemisphere of the brain, we couldn't be separate in this physical 3D reality, and that is simply not true. It is not the truth. It's what keeps you polarized in your experience, keeps you in one lens or the other. You can be in a whole total expression. And this is one of the biggest false illusions, which means people say in spirituality, if you transcend and come into oneness with Source, you will leave this reality. That is not true. And so people don't come into the point of actually transcending polarity, coming into non-dualistic thinking and becoming whole in unification. And that is a catch, as many of these different narratives are. They're a catch to keep us stuck, to keep us tethering, to keep us distorted. Many of the spiritual teachers that you know that have received huge amounts of encouragement have agendas. They're either for the false light narrative, or they've been entrapped into some level of Illuminati and descended consciousness narrative. And so these beings, and there are many, one of them specifically that has a huge following is, I can't think of his name. The name that's coming up is Wayne Dyer, and that's not true. Joe Dispenza. So I am when you hear me code, I'm coding for protection. So the algorithms cannot track, and so the frequency. So I'm ensuring that censorship cannot take down my information. So if you hear me code mid-channel, it's for a protection and for an energetic clearing. It's to protect you, protect me. But beings like Joe Dispenza, I would love to invite you into the feeling of this. I know that we're going on a little bit of a dance of the original expression of this transmission, which is how I tend to facilitate. If you feel into the essence of the energy of Joe Dispenza, and if you can see his eyes and look into the window of his soul, you will be quite surprised that he is not of pure heart. Now, this is an uncomfortable thing to recognize because he teaches a lot of amazing tools. And with all of these narratives that are out there, they teach one lens of universal law, or they teach one amazing subject, and they keep you entrapped in that subject because it's truth. And this is how our reality manipulates. This is how our brain doesn't function in wholeness. Because you look at Esther Hicks, she's a false light teacher. Galactic Federation don't like me very much. But I am protected by God Source Creator. and all that are in my space are also Sariyashotokuendianai. So Esther Hicks is what you would consider a false light teacher. She, I believe, is actually an entrapment. I believe she's an amazing channel and she does have a pure heart, but she has been basically contracted as a channel for an agenda. And you can feel this if you tune into it. So the law of attraction is quite a bypass. And the bypass of this is that you focus on one law. And what happens is it's like, okay, I choose the feelings that feel good. I choose the feelings that feel good. Now, ascension is going to allow you to choose the feelings that feel good, but because you're stepping away from the truth of the center of reality, you actually plummet. And so you dance and you wrong anything that is not that. And that's a lot of shame, a lot of confusion when I'm not feeling the feelings that feel good. How do I reach for them? I can't reach for them because I'm in my suffering, rather than leaning into the suffering. And so these teachers are helpful tools. They will give you insight, but you cannot stay there. You cannot stay with any of the current teachings that are on or in our reality, which is where we are coming into a new creation point, because if they worked, we would be transcended. If these teachings truly worked, we would be transcended. If yoga was a whole practice, and I know that that could create a little bit of projection, and I'm open to that. If yoga was a whole practice for us to come into the totality of who we are in the here and the now, in a place of transcendence, that we would be transcended. How many people practice yogic traditions and tantric expressions? It's missing pieces. That's just the truth. And that is why these aspects of modalities, they give you the pieces. They give you these pieces to bring together, to bring this puzzle piece together. But what we are creating now is a more holistic mind, body, soul modalities. And many of you are here to bring these modalities together. If you have journeyed these masteries, these ancient knowledges, these texts, you are here to bring in the evolved frequency and evolution of these. These modalities cannot sustain a spiritual totality of transcendence. And so as we continue to keep our brain in separation, going back to what I was originally speaking into, the brain will stay this way. If we continue to go, I'm going to go do yoga here, and then I'm going to go study this text, and this is more in the infinite wisdom, and this is in the somatics. We move through the different poles, different vibrations, and we learn ourselves, we see ourselves. But our brain still functions in either the left or the right hemisphere. It does not merge into the oneness. And to become a fifth dimensional being and to function in that and be anchored in that, we need to unify. Where the brain no longer sees in the left or the right hemisphere, it no longer sees in the light or the dark expression, but it comes into the wholeness of unity. Now, whole brain is what you will see in different brain scans of a person that sits in meditation and comes into that point, that 0 point, where all of the neurology is fired and wired. We can function from that here in the waking day. But we need to learn to dissolve these aspects of division. Now, this is mastery to keep us in separation from ourselves. And this is what we are all here to actually come into the wholeness of, is the unified brain, the Christos, the Christ consciousness, the essence of oneness. In relation to this point of division of, how you see yourself, how you're different, how you can start to recognize is that most of us have done a lot of challenge through our life experience. And we've come to a point, the tipping point. So the tipping point can also be reflected in the brain. So the tipping point of that we are no longer in these left or right hemispheres, and that we come into this transition, right? So there's a transition point that's taking place on the Earth's evolution, that a rapid purification is happening. And what that allows is for the neurology and the neuropathways of the electromagnetic field of your being to start to fire in a more holistic way. And so this wholeness that you are can be chosen because you came in that way. So circling back around to the child that you were between 0 and 7, and where you unplugged yourself from the wholeness. Your unplugging moment, and there is one usually, it might have been done over 2 or 3 experiences of trauma, but there's usually one moment where it's like, fuck this. This reality is not safe for me. This reality is too painful. This reality, I can't be here and feel. I can't be here and know. I can't be here and be me. And so the root belief system is it's not safe to be me. I have to hide who I am. I will be hurt if I continue to shine my light. Now, every single being that I have ever worked with has this core wound. It's not safe to be me in this world or reality. And the different waves, the first wave, the second wave, and some of the third wave, but most of the third wave is staying plugged in, unplug themselves. What happens when you access this memory? You can plug yourself back in. So this memory that exists between, most of you will be around 0 to 7, this separation point, this fragmentation point, if you access this memory, you can reclaim that child, that divine holy child, that son or daughter of God, and come into the full opening of what you disconnected from, into the ascended mastery of that which you are, into the frequency, the vibration, the light that you were, that you've forgotten, and that you actually have disconnected from. This moment is often quite traumatic. So for me, I'll share with you my story very quickly so that you're aware of what you might be heading into, of what I know some of you are definitely going to be seeing in a moment. And your external experience will be triggering this, because your divine child, this essence of you, has to be reclaimed to be your Christos. That's who you are. And how that will be triggered is through the pain and the suffering and the contrast of your external reality. And it will be more than one thing. It will be filtered through your entire experience. The part of you that feels like you can't be yourself. The part of you that feels like you don't know how to play. The part of you that feels unsafe in your body. The part of you that feels like someone is going to hurt you. The part of you that feels misunderstood. The part of you that is challenged to be, just to be, the part of you that's challenged to be. And so that will be very present. And we're looking at it from the 3-dimensional, the human lens of this person is triggering me into this and this. And what happens is, because it's such an early fragmentation in this reality, is that you have entanglements. So you have a belief system that's here with a belief system that's here. And what happens is those belief systems start to merge. And it's actually really hard to see what's wanting to be reclaimed. Because when you're looking at it, you're like, there's just so many layers. There's so many things. I don't even know how to. It's very multidimensional. But it's actually not. It's that your multidimensional self has been lost. And so when we journey back into the subconscious, into that shadow point, that point of fear and terror, that's what it is. It will be a fear and terror point. So if you haven't done any regression or inner child work, because inner child is often fear and terror and extreme turbulence on the body. It's quite a challenging remembrance, is that fear and terror can be a really hard place to go. And so you may need someone to hold space or support you, or meet a trained trauma facilitator, or if it feels in resonance and you know that you're ready for this and you would like support from me, that you can reach out to me. But there, it can be done alone. You can do it in a bath if you're a bath process person, or a pillow. I used to do it on my bed and put pillows around me and put music on and a candle and cuddle up with a teddy bear, right? You can do this by yourself, and you can ask for God to facilitate you if you create that space, because terror is a hard place to go into. But this fragmentation or this disconnect, unplugging of your multidimensional self to reclaim that wholeness, which is available right here, right now, in this moment, because it's a collective wound that's coming up. So when there's a collective wound, the veil is thinner, the energy is present, it's easier. It's easier to do it when it's present. It's actually harder to do it when it's subsided. So when your triggers are here, be with your triggers, be in the emotion, allow them. Don't compartmentalize them or cap them away. It's like, okay, I am present. It's easier if it's activated. It's easier if it's alive. So this is alive in our current energy field. And so when you move into this, you will be accessing a point that has been too terrifying to look at because it meant life or death. And that will come into the belief. It will mean life or death in some part of your subconscious, and the belief and the attachment to not plugging in because it's not safe. For me, I remember this moment, and it's beautiful because it was terrifying to go into, but what I claimed back was just divine. I went into a memory where I was 3 years old. My mother was a master yoga teacher and a Reiki master. And so I did grow up with false light spirituality and a covert narcissistic parent. So I won't say that the spiritual belief systems, I actually pulled away from everything that I was taught. I was like, I am not spiritual. And I would get very triggered if anyone ever said that I was spiritual once I got tattoos. It was like, I'm conscious. I'm not spiritual. So I did grow up with that. So I was able to sit in yoga classes, and my ascended mastery obviously needed this parental remembrance to come in. And I was sitting in the meditation pose, and I was sitting in front of a big window that looked out to the garden at 3, sitting in deep meditation. And I went back into this memory, and my stepdad he was quite fragmented. He was a being that worked for the underworld and had demonic presences and energies within him, and different things that worked through him. You could say that he was extremely narcissistic or a sociopath. And he came up behind me, and he actually kicked me in the head and stepped on my collarbone, and my collarbone broke and fractured. And so the pain point of being in a place of wholeness into extreme pain and physical representation, I pulled my essence and my being out of my body, and I disassociated. And in that moment, I was in a lot of physical pain and representation of it's not safe to be in this world and be me. And I unplugged myself completely from my circuitry system. And so from that point, I was a very disassociated, numb human. I didn't know how to feel because it was not safe to feel. But in that moment of being above and witnessing my stepdad stepping on my shoulder as a little 3-year-old child and having very beautiful bones and seeing that fracture and seeing what took place and being unconscious in the physical, an angel was actually standing at the window that I had been meditating. And she came and took my light body, and she took me on a journey above the treetops of the canopies of the rainforest that I lived near. And she said to me, as we flew through the ether above these treetops, to remember this, that to remember the sovereignty and the freedom here. Now, I dreamed of treetops and flying through the treetops for many, many years. I didn't remember this. This was locked in my unconscious. And I dreamed of these treetops. And every time I go into a rainforest, I would take a photo of the canopy. And my desire was to have a home that had a glass top roof so that I could see the treetops. And so that if I couldn't do that, if I didn't have the affordability or the capacity to have a glass roof in a rainforest, that I was going to put all of these photos of the treetops that I'd created into a collage so I could wake up to the treetops every morning. Now, when that memory came through, it made sense as to what that was. That was my remembrance of being an angelic being and an ascended master in physical form. That was a huge part of my reclamation, because I needed to move through that entire descension, ascension expression to plug myself back in. Now, the plugging back in, after I saw all the pieces, the beliefs, the attachments, the totality of that, the trauma, but the beauty. And there's always trauma and beauty if you see fully in totality. And when I saw that and I plugged myself back in, that was a very, very challenging integration, because I went from a place of allowing my full frequency back into my body. And now the earth is more supportive of that now, but it wasn't when I plugged in. And I went from fully plugging myself back into this level of light that I didn't know how to function in my body. And I didn't have a teacher like myself that you can come, and if you listen to any of my information, you'll find that the answers will be here for you somewhere. And also, if you sit within yourself and you ask yourself for what would be supportive, if you're listening to this, this is the invitation for that, is that I didn't know how to be in the new frequency. My nervous system was rattled. My brain couldn't function. My heart was palpitating. I was shaking. I was in a trauma response of my light. And I was overwhelmed. And I didn't know how to be light here as an adult. And so the only thing that I could do was at different points was to breathe and tell myself it's okay. It's okay to be this much light. It's okay to be this much frequency. It's okay. And self-soothe myself. And I would also lay down on the earth and I would ask for Great Mother to assist me to integrate the frequency and to help my molecules of my physical body. I would talk to my heart and I would tell my heart that the heart can beat to a light or to a vibration that is supportive. So to teach my heart how to be this light, to teach my nervous system. And so there was a lot of communion with the physical vessel to allow for this to take place. Now, with the eclipse shift that has allowed for this new rainbow plasma light body to come through, your light is having less challenges in the physical. So you are able to ground in this frequency with more ease and grace. And so these memories, if you allow yourself and decide that you want to reclaim that you do want to remember the fullness of your frequency, that you do want to be that you can go into the point where you're disconnected and plug back in with a more gentle transition into that embodiment. And that's exciting. And I'm seeing so many return to the original expression of their essence and remembering that. That's wholeness. That's unity. That overrides so much of what you think you are. That overrides the infiltration. That overrides the subliminal programming. That overrides, by reclaiming that frequency, that overrides anything. The EMFs from your phone, the 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 energies in your outside that you don't even see, the demonic being that works through the person that you walk past on the street and you give eye contact and receive psychic attack. Your reclaiming of who you are in your source essence, in the divine son and daughter that you are, is your protection. So we have this belief that it's not safe to be me in the world, but it's actually the most safe to be me in the world, because my frequency is what protects me. As soon as I let my frequency drop, as soon as I let my vibration, as soon as I disconnect from who I am, that's when I am vulnerable. That's when I'm at the effect of the pain and the suffering. That's the challenge, is to recognize that by being all of me, I'm actually the safest. By being all of me, I have all of the answers. By being all of me, I am able to create magic in the world and to be seen. By being all of me, I'm seen and I am resonating at the vibrational frequency of being seen. If you have just met in either in this transmission of this live or in any other previous transmissions, I have shared that only 2 weeks ago now, I fully uncloaked myself. So I chose to fully unhide myself because now I was safe, because I know who I am. I've remembered who I am, and I'm integrating in totality. It's not quite here, and I completely claim that I am not solid in the creation of that which I am, that there is still a wavering point, and that it is now safe though, but before it wasn't, because I am, it was unsafe for me to show me, because listen to what I'm talking about. Listen to what I'm sharing. I am unlocking the entrapment programs of the human psyche, of this reality. I am breaking down the matrix. Now, it's not safe to be a speaker of truth in this reality if you have not reclaimed who you are. And you will hear this in conspiracy theory. Conspiracy theory is not a conspiracy. It's truth coming from the lens of mind. Everything that you've heard in conspiracy theory is probably true. It's just disconnected from the emotional aspects and the spiritual connection. And so what happens is that the conspiracy then gets disconnected because we go down rabbit holes of dissension, fear, and worry, where there's an opportunity to see what is actually provided. But as a speaker of truth, that means I speak into conspiracy theories because they're not their truth. But I give an offering of what is available to stay in the heart, to stay in union as a possibility to be all that one can be. And this was not safe for me to do until recently. And so if you're tuning in now, it's because I've allowed myself to be seen and met by you. And you've allowed yourself to open to be received and be met by me. And this is what's taking place for many of us. It's safe to be me. It's safe to reclaim my technology. It's safe to be in my ascended mastery. It's safe to be in my frequency. It's safe to be a pillar of light now. But it hasn't been. And you don't even need to be in the full Christos to be safe. Pending who you are and where you are, it's recognizing that the earth is now supporting, that the reality that we live in is changing. And no longer will you be persecuted. No longer will you be wronged. No longer will you meet a sense of death for who you are. And so in that closing, I am very grateful for all of the beings here that have received this information and all of your comments. If you would like to support my mission so I can continue to show up and give you the fullest, it wouldn't matter if you support it or not. Makes me giggle. But if you would like to support my mission I have a what is it called? A link tree that is on my main page of my YouTube, and I will also put it in the comments of this description. I know that live processing takes a little while, so I can't edit it once I press end. Well, I probably can, but I'm not very tech savvy in relation to getting things out, but I don't need to be, right? I just need to speak truth. There is a donation link so you can buy me a coffee. There is information there to find my email and different information on how to work with me. I run a mystery school for priestess women, and the new intake for that will not be until October, September. And I do soul I work with individuals to remember the authentic expression of who they are. So my mission is to activate the truth of who you are. And so that means working in all layers of consciousness to release and witness that which you are not, so that you can stand in your truth. So I do have openings and spaces for that, whilst also being in Bali here to write a book. And the book, there's the only one book that I've been asked to write in my incarnation, and I have been told that this book is, it's actually a book on the human psyche and the fragmentation that's created the human condition, and how to unlock and come out of the human condition and come into sound mind. So it's a book on transcendence, and it is what I have been told is going to be a new scripture for the new earth, so some sense of a new Bible. And I am honored to be able to transcribe the word into that level of interpretation, because as we know, how do you explain God? God is feeling. I love you all so very deeply. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being here. Thank you for you. And yeah, I love you. Te ataya koriande ni isheriati diseto koriana hayane noreatei sende karorei no anaia sekayeti dosharayande ano. Bye.